you can imagine how this is going to be a new step, a new direction for Bangladesh and the geopolitics of.
I heard about that. They cut away the social media because they wanted to not show this uproar or unrest that's going on.
Freedom fighters are the individuals who fought bravely in the 9-month war that took place between West Pakistan and East Pakistan or Bangladesh at that time.
In COVID time, I went back in Bangladesh and the situation was not really good. And my friends were telling me that in Corona they had a really hard time. They didn't get any help from the government. She used her own people. She put her own people in police officers.
We had the revoke on 2018. On 2023, early 2024, the High Court revoked the 2018 law with no quota.
Disclaimer. Before we dive into today's episode, we want to remind our viewers that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any affiliated organizations or entities. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We encourage our listeners to do their own research and form their own opinions on the topics discussed.
Yeah, the biggest problems was freedom of speech. There was no freedom of speech when Sheikh Hasina was president.
Oh,
If you would make a post, a Facebook post against Aomi League government during that time, there was new law. Like if you say something against the government, police and rep can take you to the custody and torture you. So after she escaped the country, people have emerged in social media and are now free to say what happened during she was in power. So there was no freedom of speech. That's one problem.
so yeah, I want to bring that later on because when you say freedom of speech, there is something related to that. So let's get to the incident.
Just go through what you just said. We didn't have freedom of speech, but there was no law that officially infringes like freedom of speech. But because there is no such law, that's just political suicide. But although I don't think she cared about it much, but even though there was no law, but even if you do say something against the prime minister, the government, or if you just find out like how corrupt any of the ministers are, it would disappear because they can't arrest you officially because there's no such law. But you disappear, and they're just making some fall report. Oh, you got killed by the street, but killed by some like mobbers or whatever, and people genuinely thought like they actually got disappeared. 10 years after, they are popping out of nowhere. Yo, I'm popping out. I thought
Yeah.
you're here.
Right. Okay. It's a bit like even Russia or India or even US as well. You say something about the government, you're
Said without any warrants.
Yeah, because there's no such law.
No warrants, nothing, no accusations. Just
These were
they
all
went missing.
extrajudiciary. They were not legal arrests.
all these things eventually escalated now where it's come to the point where there was a global recession. Let's admit it. Like we're facing it here in Australia. We're facing it here. There's there in India, US, everywhere. But I think Bangladesh is starting to have that as well, especially with the youth. And the youth are getting educated. There's more and more youth getting educated. So that means they want to work in better positions, right?
They're getting more and more educated, but they're not getting the jobs.
Yeah.
That's where the problem starts.
I was in Bangladesh between 2022 and 2023. And since I was, before that, last time I actually went back to Bangladesh was somewhere around 2017, 2016-ish. So just by looking at the numbers from Bangladesh, I was thought like, yeah, Bangladesh is doing pretty fine. Hey, it's like, we overpassed India in GDP per capita. All the numbers look so much better than whatever. And I thought like our government was doing so much better. And so I went back to Bangladesh in 2022. Everyone in the country was pissed. Like, even if I ask a rickshaw, if you know a rickshaw, those are people who pull the rickshaws. I don't know if you don't see them in Australia, but if you just Google them, you know what they are. From local to the poor to the rich, extremely rich in power, everyone complained about the government. They said it's complete havoc. And about all the numbers, all the money that's coming into Bangladesh, the middle class, there's no middle class anymore. The middle class who were loyal to the government, they, I guess, got all the money that actually came to Bangladesh and became an upper class. Or those who were not, they lost all the business, all their small business, because all the big conglomerates are taking over all the industries. So if you're an independent businessman, you can nowhere compete with them, and you join up the poorer class. And whoever left, like us, we left the country. That's the treaty. There's no other. They either left the country, they either joined the upper class for being bootlickers to the government, or they were on the other side and became a part of the poverty.
What about yourself, Arnab Bhai? What's your opinion on how Bangladesh has been running before you moved into Australia?
When I was in Bangladesh, I was in China like for a long time.
Right.
In COVID time, I went back in Bangladesh, and the situation was not really good. My friends were telling me that in Corona they had a really hard time. They didn't get any help from the government, and I want to say the biggest problem of Awami League government is corruption. I think that any government, even the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, they were also involved with corruption. So corruption is a huge problem in Bangladesh because no matter what, you need to give people their rights.
Yeah.
And provide poor people with some resources, some money when they are in trouble. But in these political parties, there are some businessmen. So these businessmen misused the government for their own sake. And there were some criminals also involved in this political party who used these political parties for their own sake, for like a robbery and for killing people and stealing the money and launder money to another country. And these were the huge problem when these governments, not only Awami League, also BNP was in power, and there was no law in the government. All the system like police, judiciary system, everything was misused by Sheikh Hasina.
And it was corrupt.
She was controlling everything. Nothing was independent. She used her own people. She put her own people in police officers like RAB, and they used to like kill people, torture people if they went against the government, and nobody had like freedom of speech. We are really afraid to post something on Facebook or just share something against the government on Facebook, and media also didn't had the power to like
Expose these criminals.
publish the news independently. They used to publish the news from government's propaganda, and the BTB is
Bangladesh
like
television.
Bangladesh television. They were acting like a television of North Korea. When the country was in crisis, 300 people died. They were just talking about the development of the country. They had like no issues what is going on in the country. That's why students went into the building, the BTB building, and just broke the whole thing. And they also attacked like police stations because police played a really evil role.
Of the government.
Yeah, evil role. They
So now you're talking about the protests, about why the students attacked it, right?
yeah.
So how did this protest even happen? Like,
So there was like inequality. It's really hard to get a government job in Bangladesh because the population is
At the moment, it says on Google, when I just Googled it, it says 171.2 million as of 2022. So that's crazy to me.
wow.
Right. And it's a small country, by the way.
Yeah, it's very tiny. It's not like a country.
Bangladesh.
So yes, we're talking about the protests. What led to those events?
mainly started as 56% of like seat was already booked for children's of freedom fighters, children's and grandchildren's of freedom fighters. So those who are not freedom fighters didn't get a government job easily, and there was obviously the corruption if you wanted to get a job in the government.
To give context to this, the freedom fighters are the individuals who fought bravely in the 9-month war that took place between West Pakistan and East Pakistan, or Bangladesh at that time. And they had played a huge, crucial role in the liberation of the country, which is why later on they had gotten a quota, which you would say was a sort of a advantage for them to get jobs later on. This quota system was also applied to their children later on, as well as their grandchildren Now, this is where things get murky.
So now, out of this huge amount of people in Bangladesh, majority are like young people, and they are not getting job easily. That's why many of people like us are coming in abroad to live a better life. So student told the government that decrease the percentage of quota, because I don't know, in any other country there is not like a 50% out of 100 is like quota. There is no merit basis the qualification in government job. You need to, somebody is studying whole day whole night and not getting the job, and other people are without studying getting a government job. So
Privilege.
there is no equality.
I think if I'm not wrong, it was Hasina's way of getting continuing the support that the freedom fighters families were giving to the government that time, the Awami League. I think that's why they continued the quota system, if I'm not wrong.
30% of the government jobs were reserved for veterans of the 1971 War of Independence and their families.
Yeah, and the worst part is all of these freedom fighters are not real. Many of the freedom fighters are fake.
I'm not sure, but there's another 5%, that's 40%. And I reckon there's another
5% that goes to disability, transgender.
55% of the seats were allocated to quotas. There's obviously a quota for the minority, ethnic minorities. Bengalis make 98% of Bangladesh, but we're not the only race that lives in Bangladesh. There's other Southeast Asian tribes, such as the Burmese people,
The Chakmas.
Chakmas, the Marmars.
Yeah,
Marmars are
Marmar.
pretty much the Burmese people, but they've been living in Bangladesh for a long while. Like Rohingyas live in Burma. Unlike Rohingyas, they do have citizenship to Bangladesh. Then you have other tribes here, the Shazals, and since we want them to represent in government positions as well, to represent their races and tribes. There's a quota for them, and we have no issue with it. We love it. We want to keep it even to this day. Those quotas. There's obviously another quota for disabled people. My friend here, his mother disabled. We want them to be represented in the government as well. Definitely, we have no issues with that. The issue was the only issue is why do we still
57.
need to benefit the freedom fighters? We are fine with the other 10%, and women, that is somewhere in the middle ground. Some people agree with it, some people don't agree with it.
Well, it is harder for Bangladeshi women to get jobs, so it is a good initiative from the government. But yes, you're right. The 30% quota, the freedom fighters, 100% they deserve it because they gave their life for our country. They risked a lot. Their children, that's a debatable topic, but their grandchildren, that is absolutely unjustified.
Another thing. So when I was coming back from Bangladesh to, how much people of the real Muktijoddhas are still alive? I don't think there's much left.
Muktijoddhas are the liberation fighters.
Yeah,
Fighters?
and they can just participate in a government job now,
Yeah.
even if they are alive.
Great.
Even their children are alive. They are like right now maybe 30, not even 30, 40, above 40 years of age. So they can also apply for a government job.
Yeah. So about not much. The whole Muktijoddha people, the freedom fighters, I don't think they barely represent 0.0001% of Bangladesh population. Bangladesh is a very large country, but 30% of all the jobs are allocated just for the 0.01% of the country, which is absurd. But there you go. That's the only one. That's not the only feature they get benefited from. Also, I wasn't in Bangladesh when I was coming back from Bangladesh to Australia after a full year of, I don't know, inspirational tour of Bangladesh. When I was coming through, I saw something very absurd. They actually allocated a whole quad of the airport just for the descendants of the Muktijoddhas, even now.
Wow. I think the whole quota system now is kind of redundant, considering that we need a more merit-based system.
And there is like a huge unemployment in Bangladesh right now among young people. So that's a huge problem. Like a lot of people are getting graduated every year from various public and private universities. But they are having a real hard time to get a job. They are applying in multiple jobs but not getting a job. It is like affecting them mentally a lot. They are getting mental pressure, and like young age boys can't get even married because they are not established yet. So it is also affecting their life. That's why student came up with the quota
add on the
Mm.
context to it, in the as you know, majority of Bangladeshis are Muslims, and in the Muslim marriage, you have to give a very large amount of sum to the woman's family.
It's a dowry, but it's called mahar.
It's called mahar, dowry, but it's not from the woman to the men.
Yeah, it's from the boy, the groom side.
You can understand if you're not established, how hard it can get for you to get married, because you have to pay that money to the woman.
So marriage prospects were on the line. Establishment of a life in general, like setting up a good life for yourself, is very hard. But
Of course.
so essentially, I think, I don't know when it started. Was it first of?
It started at 2018, and it was at first it was not about quota. It was about road safety. Two students died in road accident in Bangladesh, and one like a transportation minister, he came into a press conference and just laughed at that situation. Can you imagine? He was just laughing. Shahjahan Khan, he came like he had no sympathy for the students who died.
Why was he laughing then?
Nobody knows why he was.
He doesn't
Maybe he is.
He's
not-
a minister, and he doesn't take his people seriously.
Yeah, he doesn't
Also-
take things serious.
And he's a transport minister.
Yes.
Yes, now he's nothing, but back then, yes.
And he's not qualified. I think he's not
No,
qualified. He
people-
doesn't know anything about road and transportation. Nothing. He has no like any knowledge about it.
I'm gonna add another thing. So this guy, okay. So this gentleman, so in the 2000, what's the last election before 2022?
2020, 2018.
2018. Yes, in that election, this guy was one of the ministers of Bangladesh. He was giving his interview and how he got his ministerial position. So he was asking, "Hey man, like, so hello sir, like, how did he get this position? You know, Bhumi, that land department, land ministerial." He was saying, "Dude, in the interview, still there. Can I Google it up?" His answer to it, like, honestly, I did not knew there's a ministerial called the Bhumi minister. Bhumi means earth or like land.
Land.
I didn't even know what this minister is. I didn't even existed. She just called me and told me like, "Hello, could you be the minister of land?" I'm like, "I don't even know such minister exists." And he was just, "Okay, I shall try." And he started, and that's how he became the minister. He had no clue that his ministry exists. How would you know what to do in that ministerial? He's a businessman. He has no clue. He's never been in politics before. So he
So-
literally put a lock in, pick someone's number, and okay, you take that minister.
So ineligible people were holding ministerial positions, but that's in 2018. But what happened this year? Like,
Or not just that, Raja. So what happened was some of the you know how we said the beneficiaries were the children of the liberation fighters, the Mukti Juddha.
yeah,
Turns out some of them have actually faked their documents to get that title.
A lot of people. And government, the Army League, the government would help them get them, so they get more loyalists in the positions. They
right.
would give it for cheap, or they would just make a fake certificate to anyone who they see more loyal. The government can trust them to, and they'll just give them a fake certificate that you're liberation war.
Right. We need to find this person and
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, it happens. It's pretty much everyone knows it's an open secret. So the government would just give them fake, some random people who's probably Raja Kars, the people who actually fought against it. But yeah, they would actually give Raja Kars the freedom fighter certificate and make them come to government because they know they'll be loyal with the government. And that's the issue. That's why all the police, all this time, the police and all the people, they were so loyal to the government. They start killing their own people because they all got into powerful position through this Army League fake system of fake quotas and stuff.
It's crazy how things panned out.
But what I was asking about what the trigger was. So we got the ineligible people, we got the fake documentation, and you got the quota system. But what was the trigger for the recent protest then?
I think I can answer this one pretty bigger. Okay, so first, I'm going to point out three things. People are already angry from the beginning for 15 years for all the austerity
bullshit.
bullshit. Number two, economic recessions and stuff. And number two, three, people who are launching government getting extremely rich, and the normal people are getting poorer. That's the rich is getting richer, the poor is getting poorer, and that crap. Finally, the quota was actually the least of the concern for the people at the moment. The whole quota issue. But thing is, when the quota started, no one, like, it started 3 weeks ago, I believe, and no one thought 3 weeks after we'd see the government flying away. We thought it's going to be not any other protest. People as mad with the government would obviously be sympathetic to the people. What happened during the protest about 3 weeks ago? People started dying. We've seen pictures of students being shot in front of camera, and the government denying it. They didn't shoot it.
Yeah.
That piss people even longer, we expect an explanation for the prime minister. And that's the third. That's the big. I think that's the biggest trigger. Was not the quota. It's her speeches. Every time she would come to camera, she would say something super stupid, and that would piss people even more until to the point she had to leave the country.
3 weeks ago, essentially, you're saying that the riots started, and this is what I heard from the news. The riots started. It got to the point where police brutality happened.
Yeah, they started arresting a lot of officials. Like, there was a Facebook post that said numbers,
Yeah,
but that was just what was recorded.
yeah.
They were asked not to record a lot of arrests, a lot of deaths. Like, even in the medical, they were like, don't record that. And, you know, that's just off the books.
But
So it would be like more than
it
10,000.
wasn't. I don't think anyone was killed in that first wave, was it? It was more like everyone's getting brutally hurt, and
Yeah, there were a lot of deaths as well, but it wasn't recorded.
A student wing named Chhatro League started beating students, and somewhere is around July, first 2 weeks. And those photos went viral that they were beating people.
right.
And they were open fire on the students as well.
Let me just clear out what
And
the league is.
there was
Let me just clear what so in Bangladesh, every major party have a student wing for their parties. So for example, what the student wing do, they basically supporters of the major party that they are patronized by, but they represent the party among the universities and ones.
They're meant to be like a how do you say, a younger club. You know, like how you have the talents coming up from the younger club to the main.
Yeah.
So it's like the La Masia for the politicians.
Yeah.
in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
That's a very good analogy there. That was so they're supposed to, like, if you do good in Charter League, they might promote you some other Juba League, whatever, eventually end up in Army League. But thing with the Charter League is, or any other party's student wings are, they're heavily hated by the national people, because
They're all goons. They're all goons.
they're all goons, yes. So if Army League, their student wing was called the Charter League, the infamous Charter League we were talking about. But there's obviously other parties, and whichever party was in power, their student wing would act like they own the street. They'd be the state-sanctioned ghetto or gang. But like, imagine Bloods and Crips in America, but each of them is backed up by the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Oh, they're red and blue. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But they pretty much have it. And last 15 years, obviously being Army League in power, their student wing, Charter League, they have so many instances of like random killings. So someone speaks to do their dirty work in the universities if they're required to do so.
So they were being beaten, and then I think what happened next was that because the student protests were still going on and it's becoming worse and worse, the government backtracked.
In 2018, the government had said that they will reduce some of the quota, but then there was a high court case.
High Court rule.
Yeah, the high court ruled in the favor of the children of the grandchildren, rather.
Let's go back to Tamil. 2018, big protest by the students, and she revoked the whole quota completely. And how she said it seemed like she did it out of emotion, like out of anger, instead of actually making a merit-based or actually she had any concern about the students.
Yeah.
Yep. So that having no quota at all means there would be no quota for the minorities either, which violated the whole equal socialist constitution that we have originally had. Since that is a valid reason for the High Court, because that's illegal. You cannot make a law against the Constitution. That's when the High Court or the Supreme Court can come and tell you, okay, this law is not valid because it breaks the Constitution. We had the revoke on 2018. On 2023 or early 2024, the High Court revoked the 2018 law with no quota. Because they revoked it, since we have the quota back again, that old 30% quota for the freedom fighters, that got people really pissed. So Hasina saw people that mad again. To calm them, they promised them, all right, we will appeal it for you, and to get the old law back with no quota. and we'll appeal it for you. And Supreme Court, if they make any, what do you call it? Any law, there's the value. The Supreme Court ranks higher in the whole judiciary hierarchy than the High Court. So if any law, so High Court can ban any law made in the Parliament or anything lower, but Supreme Court can.
Supreme Court can do
Yeah.
like
So their word is absolute.
Supreme Court is the highest of them all.
Yes, exactly. And the Supreme Court said we'll appeal to the Higher Court, which is the Supreme Court, and we'll try to get back the old law back again. So revoke the revocation, which did not work. But the Supreme Court ended up trying to find a middle ground, which is again on the orders of Sheikh Hasina, which doesn't break the constitution. They come up, okay, why don't we absolutely, like the logic says, remove the completely the Mukti Jodha quota, the Liberation War quota, and make the other ones very low and make it almost completely merit based. And since there's a minimum 2 to 3% still few quotas left for the minorities in this new law, this is technically not breaking the constitution. But the issue is why people about this time when this appeal came from the Supreme Court, the whole people got really pissed because we know she controls everything. Why did she not do that earlier, not this late, after we already lost about 200 people in the streets?
Right. Okay.
Now it's not about the quota. We talk about the quota now later because people died. We want to know, are they gonna get any justice for it, or these are gonna be numbers in the future?
Right.
How could you like stop people from getting what they want when this is a democracy, and also at the same time you militarize the police to actually, murder civilians,
Like shoot on sight orders. were
shoot
given
on sight orders, which is unconstitutional, obviously.
Yeah, and there was an incident where a kid just had gone upstairs just to, like, from the roof of a building, just to look at the helicopter, and then they had shot the kid.
And they did all these horrendous activities with no wall, cutting off the internet.
Yeah, I heard about that. They cut away the social media because they wanted to not show this uproar or unrest that's going on.
I had one friend from Belgium. On his holiday, happened to be in Bangladesh at that period, and he didn't know he's gonna go that south because it happened super fast. But she spent the time in Bangladesh while she was, she had no internet in Bangladesh, and he saw some. And from her own, when she came back to Belgium, first thing she did, she told me what the hell happened in Bangladesh, and she confirmed people were actually shooting real live bullets from the helicopter. Apparently, they would rather go to random houses, see if there's anyone whose age is about the amount of the protesters in the street, and they will just grab them and take them somewhere we don't even know.
They, as in police, or
Police, the army, the BGB, that's the bodyguard. Chatterley could be as well, RAB. Like we have a lot of.
By the way, RAB is a Rapid Action Battalion. That's one of the special forces. Of
far out.
So basically, anything that represents government would do the dirty job.
Right.
And against you have the people. And Charter League as well. They did some police jobs as well.
They did a lot.
Yeah.
So after all of that happened, people said, you know what, we've had enough of this. We're going to storm the Capitol. So they stormed the Capitol. Everything stopped on that day. Like people left their jobs to just be there. They basically swarmed everything. They were approaching the Prime Minister's home.
Apparently, yeah, they took her clothing and took her bra and stuff, and they were like playing around with it. That's what I've made.
I saw a guy sleeping on the bed and meme,
There's this person who found a 79,000 American dollar worth of bag, just like a normal bag. Was it Gucci? Or some like very
High-end luxury one.
yeah. And she opened it, and it's full of money and shit. And they're like, "Fuck, we're grabbing this shit."
Oh, hell yeah.
So essentially, it's a bit similar to the Sri Lanka uproar as well, because they stormed the.
We got inspired by them. We agree. They actually inspired us to do the same shit.
Yeah, but the worst, I think, while it was all right, like they stormed and everything, but I think what happened in the midst of that was a lot of government buildings were burned down, which means it's going to set back the economy again, because you're going to have to rebuild all that. I know, it's symbolism and all that, but again, Considering,
They did break into the Parliament House like they did in the
yeah,
US.
like they did in the US, like storming Capitol Hill. They did that in Bangladesh.
This is a tyranny.
Yeah.
It was 15 years of tyranny. People of all classes, all gender, all religion are extremely pissed for 15 years. And we just saw this government killing 1,000 young people, their children, their brothers, and whatever. And they just became so hostile against the tyranny. It just emotion taking over. Like it's just saying like if you have a person who's been beating you for 15 years and that's the only time you get to beat him back, what would you do on that day?
But I also heard, like, I don't know if this is from Western media propaganda or something, that while what happened eventually while they were going to attack her house and the buildings, like it got to the point where she realized, she told the army general or the chief general, who happens to be her brother-in-law, which is funny enough, that she wanted him and the army to continue shooting them down, but he had enough and he said no. And that was when she realized, shit, this is what happened to my father as well. And she ran away with her sister to India, where she's claiming.
2 days before she was saying she will never fly away. I mean, she will know, like, you know.
Yeah, but she flew away. She's in India right now, which is a bad thing for India because India supports Bangladesh.
India supports
The government.
Yeah, the government. The neighboring countries around India are fucked right now. Pakistan's in a heavy economical recession. Not that it benefits not that it makes India any worse. It favors India or something. Nepal's not doing too well. Bhutan's not doing too well. Sri Lanka is not doing too well. Maldives is also not doing too well. So when India is being surrounded by failing economies, and Bangladesh is added to that list, it makes it worse for India. And they still want to hold on to the existing ties that they have with Bangladesh, but having Hasina on board will sort of falter that.
Well, India's in a tight position. Let's just put it that way.
As much as I heard, Sri Lanka is starting doing pretty well right now.
They're starting to, but it's
not there yet.
not back from where it started.
Yeah, it started, but obviously you had to like down the whole country. But Nepal, I don't know. Pakistan has always been like this for like last 20 years or something. But honestly, it's a new territory. We don't know what's gonna happen. It could go both ways. Yes, it's gonna be added to one of the shittiest country, or it could be, maybe something start for something big.
Well, we've seen the scenes after people were praying. People were like glad, okay, she's left. Now we've got this new government headed by Dr. Yunus, the Nobel.
Yeah, we have Dr. Yunus. This guy has one of the best PR in the whole world. I can think imagine. I don't think
He was called the poor man's banker or something.
this guy. Everyone knows him. Everyone loves him.
Everyone loves this guy, and the government had actually kicked
The
him
only
out of the
person
country
who
back in the day.
I probably know hates him was probably the government. But because besides the government, I don't know any other person who has anything bad about this person. He is a Nobel laureate. He won it for peace.
They made him a criminal before.
But
he had to
they made
leave,
a
yeah.
criminal, yeah, for with like
So what's the background behind that? Like, why was he called the poor man's banker? Like, what did he do?
He made the bank, like Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, and that was stolen from him. They just took.
do you know what does Grameen Bank do?
So Government Bank used to give micro loans. What Nobel laureate Dr. Yunus had done was invented this new thing in economics. It's called the microfinance. So they would give small amounts of loans to poor people, and they would say, you know what, you can pay me back whenever. That's fine. Like they would have terms, obviously. But at the same time, this is something that the small man could have. They could afford this small loan. Obviously, you and me, let's say in Australia, right? We want to buy a house. We want to have a farm. We're going to have to take 100Ks. We're going to have to take 500Ks. So the concept was, let's reduce it a little bit and give them a small amount of money so that they can sustain their farms, their village homes, just enough, because these are poor people again. So after that, this was a revolutionary thing in the world of finance, and that won him a Nobel Peace Prize, and he was helping people through his bank. And what happened later was that the government obviously did not like him.
Was it because of political popularity or something? Or
To begin with, the backstory, the political backstory, not my opinion, official backstory is that back in 2008, we had another election, and which saw the rise of Sheikh Hasina just before that, we had for 2 years no government in the country. We had interim government, and in my opinion, most people were actually in favor of the interim government. But during that era, they jailed the leaders of the both families and both parties together at the same time.
And was Yunus?
And now both parties blame Yunus at the same year. By the way, Yunus won his Nobel Prize in 2006. This happened somewhere around 2006 as well. So they claim, because at the moment he's probably the most popular Bangladeshi ever in Bangladesh or outside Bangladesh. And so the interim government, they asked for some. The rumor goes, or at least that both the party claims, that Yunus, with his popularity, he wanted to be leader of Bangladesh. So he inspired the interim government to put both of them in jail. We call this the 2-2 theory. And Hasina saw, when he was taking all the revenges, Dr. Yunus became one of the prey in that purge that she went through.
Right. Okay. So he escaped. He escaped.
Yeah, he went
He
to
had-
France.
Yeah.
So obviously, I want to thank everybody that was involved with the great revolution that happened in Bangladesh. All the students that actually gave their lives. Now they're gonna get some justice, hopefully. Dr. Yunus, let's see what he does. I'm not gonna say that he's the best person, but he is quite qualified. I'm gonna say that much.
But he's only doing the interim government.
He's doing the interim, but then obviously the election will come up,
Yeah,
and
by the
we'll
way,
see what happens there.
as the normal people in Bangladesh, because we know, we see through the bullshit that both party have, we actually want this meeting to last forever at the moment.
Right.
At least for at least a year, at least. All the parties, they wanted the election to happen as soon as possible.
But I heard that the Jamaat-e-Islam, that
Jamaat
party,
Islam, yes.
that's growing in popularity now. And
Well, I mean, I don't think they're growing in popularity. It's just
Jamaat-Islam, that party is now, they've realized there's a void that they want to fill. And BNP is looking into filling that as well. But then if they do come into power, I heard that considering they're very ultra conservative and orthodox,
They're very fundamentalist Islamic group.
yeah, that they want,
Not BNP. BNP is
no, not BNP.
No, we're talking about Jamaat Islam.
okay.
So obviously, let's give some context here again. So you have Awami League, you have BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, you have Jamaat Islam. So these are the three major groups, major political parties that we have in Bangladesh, and we've seen them come and go. And most of the people are tired of the bullshit. So they've got rid of Sheikh Hasina, but it's not like the students are saying, "Oh, we want BNP
BNP.
back." No, oh, we want Jamaat Islam back. No, people are not saying that.
Let's hope not, because if they come in and because there's, like you said, there's minorities, and what happened in this midst is that I heard apparently that a lot of Hindus were attacked, a lot of temples were being destroyed, and whoever those perpetrators were, there were local Bangladeshis who were protecting that, and they, even if they weren't Hindus, they did help to protect those minorities. But if I heard Jamaat-e-Islam comes in, they want to remove those.
Yeah, Jamaat Islami, they were never in power. They never became
They did join the BNP for a short period.
Bangladesh.
They
BNP
let me tell
is
you,
the second.
they actually joined Army League as well for 4 years as well. Army League and Jamaat, they were allies as well. So if you think they're like super anti now,
And Jamaat Islam is not a like a really big party like BNP. BNP is the second most biggest party, I think, most powerful political party in Bangladesh. So they came in power, and before that, another military dictator, Ershad, came in power in 90s.
But you got in government, there's always a majority and an opposition. So
Yes. So
now Awami League,
these two parties came in power in the history of Bangladesh, total history of Bangladesh.
but with Awami League gone now, if Jamaat-e-Islam becomes an opposition, isn't that
Islami, there is like not a huge possibility of Jamaat Islami.
okay, but I get a question. So yes, as you said,
In
Jamaat
government.
Islam is too small to ever get in power. But theoretically, if they decide to convert a lot of people in the future and they ally with the BNP again, because they allied with the BNP, I can see
Which goes against their values, because in BNP there was a female leader.
female leader. Yeah, I mean,
And-
Goes against their values. So that's
but yeah, I mean, this is politics. I mean, they were allied with Army League before, the same party. Yeah. In politics, doesn't matter what your values are. Jamaat Islam, even if they in the future start, or becoming more prominent and start like taking the void and convert people or whatever, but that is from the response, which is very unlikely to happen because it's a democracy and it's going to reflect how the people are. If we can, it's not going to change the amount of people protecting the temples in the future. It's going to be the same amount of people, and the amount of people who's attacking it would still be the same amount of people.
Like you said, though, with the government in power
But
and using the army,
that's just the unlikely. That's the real answer is that is exactly why, because we have had a dictatorship for last 15 years, and now one of the biggest party in Bangladesh is almost non-existent. They disappeared, and if BNP had an election just tomorrow, we might do the same thing again. We just might put BNP the same position, no opposition, having all the seats, and they can take all the power, checks and balances for the ruler and the government. That is exactly the people in the future. We want to avoid it. We want this interim government to last enough time until we have a new opposition, a brand new party which can compete with the older ones.
right?
So I want to first of all take a moment to give a big shout out and show my respects to those who actually participated in this. I want to say thank you because you helped clean up the streets. You're helping with the trafficking of the streets. Also, there's a big portion of the student body that has helped protect minorities. There have been a lot of people that have been stationed at these temples, Hindu temples. Obviously, there was a lot of propaganda from India as well, where they were really pushing the narrative that the Hindus were being attacked.
I remember one of the shows literally calling us jihadis.
Right.
Right. There was also, obviously, this situation was a very sticky situation, and India, being the supporter of Awami League that they are, they have tried to really spin the narrative on this. But from my side, what I see is that the general public, the regular people who see through the bullshit, they were like, you know what, we're with the students. So the support was there for the students. It's obviously a political game at the end of the day. And honestly, we can talk about this for ages because this is another topic on its own, how this whole thing trickles down to India. You have Jamaat-e-Islam. If Jamaat-e-Islam comes along, the country is going to turn into another fundamentalist state, which I don't think most people want Bangladesh to become like Afghanistan or Pakistan. So I don't really see it happening. But if it does happen, it will be a threat to India. Yes, that is true. And which is something that India is, let's just say, cautious about. And they want to avoid that. So this is something that, how do you say, people were on thin ice. And there were rumors saying that raw agents were in Dhaka and they were attacking people, they were killing people, but that turned out to be fake.
Hopefully, it becomes a secular Bangladesh where it's not about anymore the past. The past should be celebrated, but not glorified in the present. It's more about the present and the future. So,
The main protesters were like students.
yeah,
Main protesters were students, and then like local people joined them, and other political organizations joined them.
it's basically similar to the French Revolution. So,
Yeah.
the people got what they want.
So it was not like Jamaat Islami. They were only against the government and they wanted the government to go. There was a lack of democracy. There was no voting rights. People couldn't go and vote and elected whoever they wanted to become MPs, to become like other chairmans.
So, like as you're saying, like you're hoping for a secular Bangladesh, which we do actually hope for it in the future. But because and also like, but as you can see, as a country that's more towards the extremist side, it does worry the countries next to it. Like India can be how I know how worrying it would be for Indians to see our country getting more not secular neighboring country into more extremist one. You do understand that that's psychological reverse as well. As we see India turning more Hindutva, the more turning right wing, it actually concerns us as well. Because, like, it's the first victim in India as a minority would be the Muslims, like it is Hindu for the Bangladeshis. So, to a lot of people, seeing the news, seeing the Muslims in India being lynched for cow eating or whatever, it ignites, it gives the Jamaati, our far right as well, to lure the people to join them. So whatever you do would affect us. Whatever we do affects you guys?